Greetings, booktubers, and welcome back to Grammaticus Books. Welcome back to a hidden Sunday comic book gem edition of Grammaticus Books. And I haven't done one of these in a long time, and it's about time I got one up here on the channel. I've got a great one for you here today. It is Samurai Cat by Mark Rogers. This is the Tor Press edition, the first graphic novel collection, which is from 1984. But the first printing of Samurai Cat was in 1980, and that was by Burning Bush Press. Back when Burning Bush Press was just a mom and pop operation working out of somebody's basement in Delaware. And those publications, those editions are basically just like a handmade pamphlet that looks like something that Samizdat would have done out of the old Soviet Union for political dissent, propaganda, and then handed out on the street. But if you were trying to get one of those old Burning Bush Press editions, it's going to run you about $500 on eBay. These here are out of print. If you try to get them, there's three of these total, three different novels that Mark Rogers came up with starting in 1984. They're going to run you about $50 on eBay if you can locate one. And they're super fragile. I started filming this, I started opening this up, and the binding started to come apart on it. So I'm not going to open this up. Instead, I'm going to try to find some online pictures and show you guys the artwork in here, because the artwork is just wonderful. It's full of character, it's full of life, it's got all kinds of personality, the main character here, and really brings these stories to life. But I can't open this thing up, it's coming apart. They really are very, very fragile. It's just a little bit of glue holding the binding on there, and it's starting to come apart when I opened it up here for the first time in probably 20 years. But Samurai Cat, his name is Miyawara Tamakato, and yes, you're perceiving that correctly. It is Miyawara Tamakato. He's an anthropomorphic cat who's a samurai, and nobody seems to blink an eye that there's a full-grown cat in samurai armor in these graphic novels. And this is his nephew Shiro, who is a gun-loving and admirer of Samurai Cat here, who follows him everywhere, dogs his steps, much to the chagrin of Miyawara. But he winds up into all these episodes and frequently saving his uncle with his machine guns that the kid pulls out every now and then. And they're very good books. It starts off with Miyawara Tamakato returning to his samurai lord after a trip. And his samurai lord has been murdered and killed by a horde of Vikings, SS Nazi troopers, goblins, giants. I mean, you name it. This whole horde of villains and villainy have descended upon his samurai lord and killed him and chopped his head off. But the head's still alive when Miyawara gets there, and the head asks him for vengeance and gives him some directions. And Miyawara Tamakato goes off, and the rest of the novel is him trying to track down the murderers of his lord, because now he's a Ronin samurai, seeking to avenge his honor for having let his lord die. And these stories are just pure parody. They're pure satire. They're extremely funny. Think Mad Magazine, the parodies in the old Mad magazines, and that's exactly what you've got here from Mark Rogers. And so there are 4 stories contained within this graphic novel, and I'll read you off what they are. The first one is The Bridge of Khazad-dûm, which is a parody of Lord of the Rings, The Bridge of Khazad-dûm, where swinish porks, the dread blowfish who never smiles, and semi-human D&D fanatics and the great winged demon Bahalhop lie in wait. And then the second story is Outsmouth, which is a spin-off of a Cthulhu horror story, Innsmouth. Lair of the Vile Wilbur Wortley and the Book of the Dunwich Cow, that hideous tome of occult lore which in evil hands can summon up the malevolent real old god, the great Kachu. And then the third one is Pickland, which is a spin-off of Robert E. Howard and Conan, a parody, I should say, a biting parody. Haunt of the Nabonidus necromancer and the mighty Con Ed, the barbarian warrior who is determined to deprive the defiant Miyawara of his prey. And then the final story is Asgard, seat of Thor, Odin, and the rest, just in time for Ragnarok, the weird of the world, when the giants and the monsters will slay the gods, and the universe will fall in blood and fire. But first, they must defeat the magnificent Samurai Cat. And that's book 1, and these are really good. They're great parodies, they're very funny. The artwork is very wonderful, it's beautiful art. I'll go out, I'll get online copies of the art so I don't destroy my book here, and I'll put them up over here so you guys can watch them. But that's the first graphic novel. The second one here is, that's the third one. Let's get the second one. The second one is More Adventures of Samurai Cat. And this one parodies King Arthur's court, Mars the planet known as Barsoom, where it obviously is a parody of Edgar Rice Burroughs. And then they have the Empire State, which is a parody of the Empire Strikes Back in the Star Wars trilogy, or well, the first trilogy, I should say. So here's a little bit of art. This one's in a little safer shape that I can show you here. And the most biting satire in this novel is saved for The Empire Strikes Back, where they have turned Darth Vader into a Nazi trooper lord, who is Darth Shatner, is his name. And here you've got a little bit of a lightsaber duel. His samurai sword versus the lightsaber with a Darth Shatner. And their spaceship, which is a floating version of the Empire State Building. And that kind of gives you a flavor of this stuff. It's very funny. It's really good stuff in here. Great stories. Let me find, I think there's a spread in here. Oh, here we've got a takeoff on Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Let me find the Barsoom. That's pretty good. Here's a Barsoom edition here from the planet Mars. Some really great, it looks like oil painting that Mark Rogers is doing there. Just beautiful work. And then here we go with Miyawara Tamakato and the Green Men of Barsoom, as it's called in this edition. And so that's the second one. It's a lot of fun. It actually, I think it gets a little better than the first one. His writing, his satire, and his parody becomes funnier. And then the third graphic novel is Samurai Cat in the Real World. And as you can see, he's still got his nephew, Shiro, with his love of machine guns. And in this one, the third graphic novel here, and the last graphic novel, he takes on the Chicago gangsters circa 1929, Berlin with Hitler in the Christmas of 1944, and then the Kremlin and Stalin in March of 1953. And this one is just as funny as the others. They seem to just get better and better as he goes along. Here you've got Hitler and Stalin working together there with a little bit of the black and white artwork. Got Hitler in a V-2 rocket. And then here's a Samurai Cat taking on some Messerschmitts and Santa's sleigh in Christmas of 1944. So it's great stuff. And after those three graphic novels, those were the three novels in the series. They went on, and Mark Rogers actually wrote two books. And the first book that he wrote was Samurai Cat Goes to the Movies, where he parodies movies. And this one was pretty funny as well. The first one is The Terminationer, where he goes after Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator. And then the Seven Samurai Cats, which of course is off of the famous movie Seven Samurai. And Alienated, which is a spin-off of the Alien movie. And this is very funny, but this is actually a novel. It's less of a graphic novel, and it's a novel. There is occasional artwork in it every now and then, but it's actually a full novel rather than a graphic novel. And again, you got Shiro there with his favorite machine guns. And then the final book in the series here for Samurai Cat was Samurai Cat Goes to Hell. And this was published, when was this published? The final one in the series. 1998, pardon me. So 1998, Mark Rogers does the final book in the series. A Samurai Cat, Miyawara Tamakato, he actually dies, and that's how he winds up in hell. And I think that was Mark Rogers' way of saying, I'm done with this series. I'm going to end it here with Samurai Cat Goes to Hell. And of the 5 books that got published from the major publishers, not counting those Burning Bush Press publications, this one is probably the weakest. So it might have been a good thing that he wrapped it up there with that 5th one, Samurai Cat Goes to Hell. But these are great. If you come across them anywhere, I highly recommend them. They're beautifully illustrated. The stories are funny. They're very biting parodies, like I said, much in the line of Mad Magazine. And if you like Mad Magazine and that type of satire and parody, you're going to actually love these. You'll love them to death. It's right down that road. You've got great things, great illustrations that complement the stories, where his samurai lord has been attacked, and you've got like a U-boat submarine stuck in his samurai lord's hall, along with Vikings and goblins and all kinds of stuff. and it's very well done. I highly recommend it. But that's it. Samurai Cat Goes to Hell by Mark Rogers. Mark Rogers passed away in 2014, unfortunately. R.I.P. Mark Rogers. But with that, I'm going to wrap this one up and put it up here for Sunday Hidden Comic Book Gems. This is definitely a hidden comic book gem. It's not that well known by a lot of people. If you are familiar with Samurai Cat, please let me know what you thought of Samurai Cat down in the comments section below. And with that, I'm going to say take care, be safe, and I'll catch you guys next time.